My dream is to own an apartment. We probably need about $20 million. I don't have $20 million to deploy. And then the guy turns out to me and saying, I want to buy an apartment as well.
This is your partner right now that's in 3,000 units with you, yes?
The real estate, if you look at the bigger picture, if you got a one apartment complex, it's a business. The cheaper you buy it, the better. If you got one, so that's great. If you got five, that's a different equity multipliers. We found out about the whole syndication model, and it feels like a scam. It's too good to be true.
Okay.
Like you're talking about 18%? We're like, no way. And the question is why?
Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I am thrilled you're here. And today we have Igor Shaltanov, and Igor is from Russia, as evidenced by the name Igor. And we've had a nice little pre-chat here about Russia and some of my experiences in Russia, but we're going to have a wide-ranging conversation, mostly about raising money, which, of course, is really important right now. Igor, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Rod, and it's my honor to be on the show, and I would love to share as much as I can with people. Thank you.
You bet. I'm glad you're here. Well, so why don't you, you're a former professional athlete. I'm dying to hear about that. So tell us your story and what you did previously and why real estate and just the whole shebang.
Yeah, I will. So, and I'm always thinking how far go back I want to go with my story, but I want to go back to Russia, right? This is 1995, let's say, or so. And that's a tough times because it was civil war, right? And civil unrest, right?
Yeah.
Outside. And then my dad was a police officer and my mom was a doctor. So, and
Moscow, St. Petersburg, where?
Moscow. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Moscow. And then I wouldn't say I didn't know if my dad comes back home. It was like the tough times to the point. So
you were worried about him making it back home. Wow.
Yeah, I was worried about making him back, and I didn't really understand the scope of the thing because I was still pretty young. But then it was a big deal, right? And then every time the news comes up, you want to make sure you see what's going on, and then like who's bombarding what, we're shooting, and blah blah blah. So, anyways, what I'm talking about and my story comes from there because it was the space when there's no business, there's no education, right? There's no financial background. So it was really relying on my mom and my dad and what they work for, right? And what they're going to bring home. And then it was tough times as well because there's nothing you can buy just to feed the family. So basically, the story from there to where I am right now, it's been a big progression for myself, and it was like huge piece of it was the internal development, right? So how you actually learn what type of people you're talking to, and then what do you want to be 20 years from now, right? And it was huge. And then
let me back you up for 1 second.
Yeah.
So did your parents immigrate, or did you come over by yourself?
It was me.
Just you?
It was
wow.
me.
And you came over when?
I came in 2009 with a ticket back home.
So you weren't going to stay.
Just to test it.
Just to test it. Okay. And so are your parents still in Russia?
My parents still in Russia, and my sister in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
But then back to the story. So you asked me. So I saw the sport is the only way for me to get out. So by focusing my mind on one thing, and that time was sport, and that was my first life because I have a bunch of lives. I'm just joking, right? So my first life was a sportsman. So I just played professional sports.
What sport?
It was water polo. So.
Oh, wow.
And then back then, the water polo is not a huge sport, right? But it's a really tough sport because you're in water all the time. And then all you need to do just focus on your mind on how to get better every single day. So, and then coming through all the obstacles, I was traveling about 1 hour and 15 minutes on the subway, right, to get to the practice by myself at the age of 13. I started at 13 and coming back, and then I was coming back maybe 11 p.m., right, or so. And then going to bed, waking up, go to school, and it was about five or 6 days a week, right? And then that was my first life. The second life, so when I served Army and then I stopped playing sports after a while, I said, what can I do to really earn money, right? And my first education was PE teacher and coach. And I really love working with kids.
Sure.
So I started to connect to kids. I started to work with kids, and then I did internship in the schools, and I was like, man, that's heaven. I don't even work. So, but then I said, listen, but I cannot feed my family because the PE teacher makes $50 a month.
Right.
Right. You're not going to be able to get whatever you want to get, right? And
Right.
then, especially after a professional career playing sports.
By the way, guys, he's in over 3,000 doors, so hang in there, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to get into all that. But anyway, so were you married at the time or single?
No,
Okay.
it was
All
not
right.
yet.
All right.
So, and then just again, just fast forward my story a little bit, right? The second was I went to the law school.
Oh,
I
you went to
finished
law
law
school.
school because
Wow.
my dad was policeman, and I saw a lot of things about the law and being around the law. And he was officer. He was not the actual patrol guy. He was
Right.
actually working at the office. And went through law school, right? Start to work as assistant judge in the court.
Oh.
And then I was like, wow, but it's not about law. It's not about protecting people. It's a little different. And I didn't like that. And for a year working at the court, I was miserable, right? Because people come up to you and then say, how much money do you need to influence that or this and that? And I was
A lot
like,
of bribery.
wow. And then that same time, she was my girlfriend. We had the first child, and he was born here in
Okay.
the United States. I was still working as assistant judge, and then my first kid was born there. So, and then I was like, do I want to teach my kids to live the life like that, or do I want to give them the rules, so which is system again created for them? And I said no. And then basically what I did, so I quit my job as a court, and then my wife asked me. That's backstory. So my wife brother that same time was drafted by NBA team, and he landed to Los Angeles, and it was Los Angeles Clippers, 2005. And then my wife saying to me, so do you want to, we're in Russia, do you want to come and just in November? So in November, it's really, really cold. And she said, do you want to come and visit my family? We're going to check it out, how the people.
In LA?
It's beautiful, the weather. So I said, okay, you know what? It's not a bad idea. Let's do that. And actually, we just finished building a house. So again, Russia system, so you don't mortgage anything. It's all cash.
Right.
So we're having a good life. We don't need to leave anywhere, right? So it's all paid off. We got cars. We got
In Russia?
In Russia, yes.
Okay.
And then she's giving me, okay, she's saying, so let's go visit my family because I'm kind of, I want to see them. And then my
She's
brother.
American.
No, she's Russian as
She's
well.
Russian, but her family's over here. Got it.
her
I'm just
family's
trying to track you here. Okay.
Yeah, she's
All
trying
right.
to track me. And then so what happened is, so we go in Los Angeles, and I land in Los Angeles in November, and people in shirts and T-shirts, and everybody's smiling, and we're in Manhattan Beach, and it's a beautiful neighborhood, and then we walk in by the beach, and everybody's happy.
You don't have that in Russia. Yeah,
and it
Manhattan
just
Beach
struck
is
me.
gorgeous. Yeah.
I was like, people can live like that.
Right.
Oh, that's alive. That's
Yeah.
a real life.
Right.
You don't need to suffer, right? You don't need to,
Right.
experience certain things. You can make a choice. So
It's funny. I was just telling Igor before we started recording that I went to the Hermitage Museum in Russia, which is probably one of the largest museums in the world. They say it would take 3 years, or is it a full year? I can't remember. If you look at every item, there's 3 million items. It would take like a full year to see them all.
forever.
But I made a joke because they have an old woman in every room that protects that room, and I decided I was going to try to make one of them smile because they're very stern looking.
I know.
Literally 35, 40 women, I couldn't get a single one of them to smile. So anyway, just as an aside. All right,
Yeah.
please continue. So you're in LA. You're like, holy crap, this is amazing.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I was shocked.
So what happened?
We have a dinner, right? It's a round table. I still remember as of today, dinner round table, and then our manager of the family, she asked one question which just struck me to the bones, right? She said, "Why are you guys coming back?
When or why?
Why?
Why are you coming back? You mean going back to Russia?
Why are you going back to Russia?"
Got it,
Because
yeah.
I told her we have a ticket right now, right?
Right, to go back.
We just came in and we have a ticket back, so it's going to be, let's say, December, January or so. And then when she asked me that question, so I was like, why do I come back? Do I come back to have my apartment, like a house? It doesn't matter. I was
Right.
like, it does not matter. It's all tangible things. But reality is, so there's no opportunity for my kids. There's
Right.
no opportunity for my family. And then, so that's how my second life began.
Okay.
So we opened the business. we said, okay.
You opened a business in L.A.?
Yes.
What kind of business?
It was Basketball Academy for Kids.
Okay, basketball camp for kids.
I'm going to connect.
All right,
both,
all right.
So basically we said, okay, from the, I think it was December or so, from December until March. So I called my mom in December after that meeting and said, listen, I'm not coming back. And she was crying.
Mm-hmm.
It was heartbreaking for her because, she understands she's not going to see the kids, and then she's not going to see us as much. But I said, that's fine. So we're going to establish ourselves. So we'll come. You can come to us. We'll come to you. So it's not a big deal. So, and then from December to March, we basically got the green cards.
Nice.
We made it official, right? And we opened basketball academy. And then remember I said, I really love working with kids.
Right.
But I went to law school. Right. And I went to law work, and I hate it every single day.
Right.
So I finally connect my passion,
which is
to the business.
How did you connect law with basketball?
No. So I started to teach kids. Remember I said,
okay.
I can't be a PE teacher in Russia. So once I get into coaching, I was not working. It was such a joy. It was
when you love what you do, work is play. You don't work another day in your life.
And I was like, man, I'm in heaven, right? For 5 years building the business, I was really joyful, right? And I really enjoy every single day, every single kid, every single interaction, right?
Nice.
Or whatever is that. So basically that business, because people feel it. Mm-hmm. The thing is, people are going to feel what's the internal attention. You can hide it, you can mask it, but if they feel it, they start to spread the word. And then business starts to grow.
If they feel how happy you are, you mean. Yes, they feel that you really love what you do, you're good at it, and you're passionate. Really, it's the passion. When you love what you do, you're passionate. People want to be around that.
For sure, and they translate it because you translate the internal feeling to that child, right? And a child feels empowered, right? And he's doing a lot better, right? And he's growing, his skill set is growing.
Nice.
It's like a coaching program, what you guys doing, right? Exactly the same idea.
Right.
So what happened is, we opened one location, we opened 2, 3, 4, 5. At a certain point, we opened 9 different locations in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And then we became number 1 again. So I was, I was a national team player in water polo. I was top athlete of my country.
Wow.
There's no higher position in water polo. I was number 1.
Wow.
Number 2, 3, right? And then when I start to be a lawyer, because it's not my passion, I dropped that things and I shifted, right? And I became the business owner. We opened the Basketball Academy for Kids. We became number 1 academy in Los Angeles, one of the biggest locations wise and the people wise. We had like a 500 people right at point.
500 employees or 500?
No, 500 students who's like attending our school.
Very
right?
nice.
And everybody's happy. They're giving you feedback, and it's growing and growing. So what I'm saying is, from there, I start to treat it as a business. Okay, what are the KPIs? What are the employees? What's the payroll ratio? So all of that pushed me into all the business communities, right? The business masterminds, the business mindset masterminds. And
so you went to masterminds to enhance your skills?
All the time.
Good for you, bud.
I
Same
was
here.
Learning and digesting as much as I can on the business side, how to run proper business and how to become successful business and how to scale it.
Yep.
So, but the thing is, I would say the industry, right? It's a youth sports.
It's
so
youth sports.
How big can you get, right? That was my problem.
Yeah.
So my internal capacity was a lot bigger, right? And I want to get more.
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough for me. But then, my wife is a professional basketball player.
Oh, she is?
And she was my partner. Yeah, my wife is my partner.
Okay.
I would say she's even better than me as a business lady, right? And then I said at one point, so that's when I would say the third life start to become, right? We need to invest the money. Because we start to get more money when we can spend, I would say.
Nice.
Or we need to spend, and we were always like a frugal coming from Russia, so we didn't.
You didn't blow it.
Cash,
you didn't buy the Rolls Royces or any of that.
Rolls Royce and anything like that. So we were like very frugal at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
So and I started to explore different things. So my Russia investments became in 2000, let's say 5 or 6, I would say, and then when I sold first property and I got chunk of money, because again, remember, there's no loan.
Right.
There's no leverage, right? It's all cash.
Right.
So when I sold it, I was like, what did I do? What did I do with money? What did I do in America with the money?
Right.
Right. And there was couple choices, right? One was everybody's talking about the stocks, and then we need to go to the stock market. And I'm going to the gym, right, with a nice guy. His name is David, I would say. And then he was a teacher from New York, retired. A lot of his money into the stock market. And I didn't know who to ask, right, about money that much. And I said, David, what do you do with the money? And he said, I have a really good broker. Broker, yeah. And he's going to give you advice, right? He's going to take your money. He's going to invest on your behalf. I said, this is a really appealing story. That's interesting. Let's do it. So, and his name is Kyle. I go to Kyle. I said, Kyle, can you please place 300 grand, whatever you feel like. He says, what is your risk tolerance? I said, it's got to be less risky, more like a steady, right? And I want to get, let's say, 5-10% return. He said, I'll do it. That's fine. And then after a year, I'm coming to my statements, and then sure enough, the only person who made money is Kyle.
Was Kyle. Yeah, that's the way it works.
And I was like, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. Kyle's great at sales. He's not great at picking stocks, and that's the freaking problem. Is most brokers are salespeople, and so well, you had a seminar. We call that a seminar here. It's not a failure; it's a seminar.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and that was my first experience, touching the stock market, touching the market.
So when did you get into real estate?
So I still own a bunch of units right in Russia. Back then, when I talked to Kyle, and then I compared two things. I was like, okay, I got income coming in from my real estate, and I got appreciation at the end of the year.
In Russia?
Yes, and I got the statement from the, it was Ameriprise Financial, so, and I got a statement that said, okay, let's look which one is doing better. It was like no-brainer.
Right, the real estate's much, much better than
and I was
the
like,
stocks,
oh my goodness, I should probably look at different things, right? But not at the stocks, not at the financial papers and stuff. Let's look at the real estate closer. What can you do in real estate? Okay, I'm buying the first house in the U.S. So I'm flipping. So
you bought a house in L.A.?
Yeah, I bought the house in L.A. So and there was two choices. I buy it for myself or I buy it as an investment.
Right.
And then again, now I'm talking about my family and the mindset. And my family is saying, so you got to buy the place for yourself. You got to buy the place for yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, so it sounds a little methodical, right? I would say it's coming from generations. Is it really financial decision or it's emotional decision? It's like more like what
the answer.
Other people are doing, right? And what everybody is doing. And I put both on scales on the spreadsheet. So, and then I said, oh, you know what? And actually I was touring like multiple houses to buy it for myself. And it took me about a couple months to really shift my mind. So, and I started to listen for bigger pockets back then. So about the real estate, financial education, and then what can you do? What strategies can you do with single family houses and stuff? So again, by that point, I only own just the single units, apartments, houses, whatever, but not the, multiple buildings, right, or multiple units.
No multifamily. Got it.
Not multifamily. So anyways, and then I bought a house. I remodeled that house. Thanks God I didn't buy it for myself and live there because it's become your liability, right? Not the asset. And I bought asset, which is cash flow, and I brought it up to the speed, right, to the market rents, and then I rented to the people. And that was my first experience in U.S.
Was it a positive experience?
It was a different story, right?
Okay.
It was like I was serving the note. I was like kicking out the tenants at some point. Again, it was a positive experience at the end because I sold it and I profit out of the house.
Okay.
But
and you learned a lot.
Tough management piece.
Right.
So it was a lot of management. If my Russian experience was you rent a place and they never call you, my U.S. experience started to become they call you every single day.
Right.
Because of something.
Toilets and tenants. Yeah.
So, and then from there, so I own, let's say, 7 units at this point, right? And then
houses?
It was apartments and then that one house.
In Russia or
in Russia?
Oh, Russia. Okay.
In Russia. Yeah, and then the house was in U.S. So, and I was like, I'm at the tipping point. What should I scale? Because I need to bring the capital from Russia and scale my business into something.
Okay.
And then I start to extrapolate. So if I own 20 houses like that, and I got 20 tenants, 20 toilets, what's the life is going to be looking like, right? And then you leverage yourself, right? It's not cash money, right? You can't get $20 million into the single family house. It's not the best idea.
And you don't have a life. And you don't have a life with 20 houses,
yeah, and
right?
you become just a simple property management company.
So
right?
I want to hear about the epiphany.
Yeah.
Because you had an epiphany at some point here.
So the epiphany was, I'm going to my friend's house,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's saying there's a guy who came from St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Do you want to meet with them?
Mm-hmm.
And they came in and they're going to go back home. I said, of course I'm going to show up, right? And then it was maybe 5 minutes from my house. So we go to my friend's house, and I'm meeting my partner, my future partner.
Oh, no kidding. He was there. Okay.
So, yeah, and then his name is Nikita. And then I'm coming in, and I say, man, guys, my dream is to own apartments.
Mm-hmm.
I want to buy an apartment complex. I'm in LA. We probably need about $20 million. So, but then I don't have $20 million to deploy, right? Because every apartment you look right and left, and I want a certain units count, right? I want to like 50 plus, maybe 100. And then the guy turns out to me and saying, I want to buy an apartment as well. I just bought.
This Nikita.
Yeah, that Nikita. I just bought 4 units, and then
4 or 40?
4 units.
4,
and,
got
and
it.
duplex, right, in Miami.
Okay.
And I turned around and sold it. I got lucky, but I understood my lesson. So there's a lot of management pieces, and you got to talk to people. Anyway, so you become not the financial person. You become really the person of operations. And having the background of the business, so we both really understand what the operation looks like. And then
So he has a business background as well?
he does.
So
yes.
so this is your partner right now that's in 3,000 units with you, yes?
Correct.
Yeah, about really 500, almost 500 million in value. And so just to stop you there for a second. So I know the answer because we talked about this briefly before we started recording. You focus on investor relations and bringing in money, and he is more the detail person.
He is.
So he's analytical. He's one of those mutants that you throw in a room with a spreadsheet and you just throw raw meat in once in a while to him. Okay.
Yeah.
He's one of those.
He won't
Good.
be sitting with you and talking because he needs a spreadsheet.
He
right?
needs a spreadsheet
What is your
to be able to
background?
talk.
What year you were born? So how many stories in the building? So anyways, if you talk to Nikita and you want to do something, you got to give him spreadsheet first.
Okay.
So what's the system behind that? So
Right.
how's that systematized, right? And then he's the type of person. And again, this is the power of the partnership. When we get together, so the idea was number one. That's what sparks the partnership first.
Sure, of course.
But then secondly, like what's the skill, right? What's the skill set?
And is it complementary?
Is it complementary?
Right.
And then there was no brainer.
Right.
I was more outgoing and spoken, right? And then going out and meeting with people. And again, that's coaching job.
Right, of course. Yeah, you do it every day. You're a great communicator, and then he's more analytical and introverted, yes?
Yeah, because you got to sell yourself. What's a coaching? It's a sell yourself.
Sure it is.
You
Sure
sell
it is.
yourself, right? And then he was the other background. He was like, okay, what's underneath of that thing? So what are the people telling? Is that true? Let's look at the numbers, right? Let's crunch the numbers.
You need
first.
both pieces in this business. I tell you, I mean, you're just an example of the most successful partnerships I see that sit on that couch or have been interviewed on my show, and it's an analytical person with an outgoing person. And that's a match made in heaven in our business because you need the numbers. Our business is primarily empirical, and you need the relationships. It's a relationship business. Now, by the way, this is a partnership business, guys, and partnerships, like a marriage, are easy to get into and hard to get out of. Okay, so you want to ask all the hard questions up front. And if you, I've got a book you can get. It's on rodslinks.com. Of the questions you should ask before you get into a partnership. Ask the hard questions. Obviously, yours is successful, but some don't end up successful. So, you want to ask those hard questions up front. And if you go to rodslinks.com and go to the free resources, the book is there with those questions. So talk about the first deal you and Nikita did. Where was it? How did it come about? Talk about it.
Yeah. So, number one, the internal I would say our internal world, we can't sell the things we didn't try. Like I cannot. And he's the same way.
Okay.
And then we sit down together, we say we can't really, the idea of the business was always to create a fund.
Okay.
So to create the fund for what? To get the
to
limited partners, right?
Okay.
And then buy more and scale more, right? Right away. So, and then we said how we can get there. So can we sell right now? We said absolutely not. We got to test it. We got to test it, and we got to find the best operators in class.
Okay.
So,
So you did a fund of funds then?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were okay. So you're doing a fund of funds and you're connecting with other operators. Okay, I didn't know that.
No.
Okay. No?
No, you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay,
So
okay. I didn't pick up on that.
that's why I mentioned, remember,
Oh.
we have no intention to go into the operations.
Gotcha,
right? 'Cause
gotcha. And
we
I was
wanna-
asking you, do you want to talk about due diligence,
no.
all of that stuff, and you're not doing that. You're basically aligning with successful operators and bringing them money.
No, we do due diligence. Again, Nikita
Well, you
will
do due diligence on the
process.
operators.
Yeah.
Yes, and probably on the asset
And
as
the
well.
property as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
so.
of course. Okay, now I get it. I'm sorry I didn't pick up on that initially. Let's talk a bit about that. So, you met an operator you liked, or you talk about the process of finding an operator you wanted to do your first deal with. Talk about that.
That's a great question. Thank you, Rod. And then I think there's a billboard always, right? The social billboard of the operator. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then we're really good, and we got billions under management and stuff like that. And what our first piece is, when we just started, number one, there's no database. Like you can't find a database when it says,
You mean of potential investors?
There's 1,000 operators,
Right.
and here's a scoring. And then if you want to do this, you can go to those 10.
Oh,
If
you're
you
talking
wanna
about
do
the
storage,
operators.
right?
Okay.
I'm talking about operators right
Gotcha.
now. So
Gotcha.
basically, the people say, "Oh, how do I know if they just started?" Oh, there's due diligence. You got to find out. You got to talk. You got to You got to ask the right questions, which is again
To make sure they're not brand new.
Yeah, to make sure they're not brand new and they're
Right.
just not getting together, or maybe it's a second deal or something like that, right?
Right.
And that was the number one thing for us. So we just finding the people who is in the business at least 10 years.
Okay, so you want a 10-year run. Now, you didn't start in multifamily either, I think you told me earlier, correct?
did.
You started in something else.
No, we just started multi.
Oh, you just started multi.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said you'd done self-storage and some other things. Has that been
It
subsequent?
was later on.
Later
So
on.
when we,
Got it.
when
Okay.
we got hit by the.
So you wanted somebody that had been in business 10 years.
That
Okay.
was number one. So
Okay.
the second one, what does the team looks like? Again, the multifamily space. It's a business.
Right.
It is a business.
Oh, sure.
Every business has a different.
Every
department.
asset is a business as well. It's
Yeah.
not just the business of being an operator. Every property you buy is a business. You're doing a business plan for that business.
Yeah. So if you look at the bigger picture, basically it's like a roll-up system, right, of the businesses. You buy in the business.
That's very good. I've never even thought about that before. When you're buying apartment complexes, you're really kind of doing a roll-up.
Yeah.
I never even made that analogy. I'm sorry, I interrupted, but that actually struck me. Okay.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. So, and then, and again, Nikita business in Russia is $100 million, right, in revenue, right, per year in Russia.
What?
per
What?
year.
I'm sorry. What's a $100 million business in Russia?
It's a revenue. His business revenue is $100 million
Whose is?
per year. It's a Starbucks model in St. Petersburg.
Okay. Now I'm
So-
sorry. I missed you here. Now who are we talking about now?
My partner Nikita.
Oh, he has a Starbucks kind of business
yeah,
in Russia.
so
Got it.
His
Now I
brother
understand.
and he is opened 2015,
Okay.
like a Starbucks
Okay.
style business in
Okay.
St. Petersburg.
Got it.
So they have about 120 locations
Wow.
right now in one city. So
Wow.
what I'm saying is there's a lot of business education once you go through that process. Growing company, right? Hiring people, scaling, right? And
course.
putting that all together, package that, maybe sell it in the future. So what I'm saying is the real estate, if you look at the bigger picture, if you look in like wider picture, if you got one apartment complex, it's a business. And then you look at the revenue, right, of that business. You look at the expenses. You look at the employees, right? If they do a good job, it's a good business, and we're ready to buy it. The cheaper you buy it, the better, right? If you got one, so that's great. If you got 5, that's a different equity multiplier. So if you got 10, 20 of them, right? So basically what we did start to look at, operators who owns 10 or more assets, right? So they got,
In one location,
in one, like a
one city.
MSA, I would say,
Okay.
yes.
In one MSA. MSA is metropolitan statistical area.
Statistical area.
Like a big metropolitan, like a Tampa or a Phoenix or an Atlanta would be an MSA. Either those are MSAs. Okay. So somebody had at least 10 assets in one MSA.
10 years, yeah.
Okay. And 10 years.
10 years. And then if you look from the high level, right? So we were saying, okay, if we operator and we got 10 properties in one city, let's say, right? And then we want to move to, and it's in Texas, let's say, and we want to move to different states. How much of the manpower, right, and in general, right, financial power you need to move that whole company to Phoenix, let's say, right, and start that business again,
Right.
and then buy again 10 assets, right? It's almost impossible. But then if you fund the funds and you understand the North Carolina is booming market, all right, and you can shift your financial, basically, right, financial power into North Carolina, but having that really good partner, right, that's going to be like a click, right?
So what you're saying, just to try to be clear on what you're saying, is you could have a partner in Texas that has 10 assets in one MSA.
Yeah.
That's been in business for 10 years, but you go to North Carolina, you're going to go to a different partner there, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Different partner, right?
Got it.
Who's a lot more present. They know exactly what's going on in the market. The local people, right? They just understand which pockets are better, right? And then
Sure.
they penetrate market a lot better than anybody else.
You know, what's interesting is most big private equity companies do it the same way. They like to see operators that are vertically integrated even as well, ideally vertically integrated, where they have their own property management, construction, and everything as well in the market.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's I was talking to somebody that knows a lot about private equity and was doing a presentation, and he said that, you know, that's a very common, you know, the way you're looking at operators is similar to private equity. So that's really smart. And so so you found where was your first operator and what state? Was it Texas?
It was California.
It was California. Oh, no kidding. You did a California deal. Wow.
And again, it took us a first deal to understand we don't want to be in California.
Oh, gotcha.
But again, it was California because it was close by. We were still emotionally attached.
Sure.
Oh, we got to be local. We can drive to the place. We can see the people.
All right. You get past that after a while, but yes, everybody starts in that place. It's very difficult to go out of state initially.
Scary.
Yeah, scary.
It was scary.
Right, yeah.
Not to say we found out about syndication, the whole syndication model, and it feels like a scam.
It felt like a scam, really.
Yeah.
Why?
It's like, it's too good to be true.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like you're talking about 18% IRR.
Right.
We're like, no way.
Right.
So why? And the question is why? And then we start to find out. So it's a little too small for big companies, for big private equity companies, and then it's a little too big for the retail
mom and
people,
pops. Yeah.
Right. So it's right in the middle. And again, from the financial background, the understanding of the business, we said, okay, this is a good niche market.
Yeah.
Because if you want to deploy,
What size are you talking about for your niche?
I'm talking about 100+ units.
Gotcha.
But it's between, let's say, $10 to $50 million, right,
Gotcha.
of the property. And again, so if you want to, if retail person want to go this route, right, they got to be accredited people at least, right, if they start to deploy the capital.
Right.
Let's say a couple $1 million. But then if the private equity, they drop in like $100 million, right, where are you going to place it? You got to really, number one, so nobody wants to be in one asset, right? They want to separate the risks.
Right.
So they want to split those checks right in between. So what I'm saying is there's a really good niche market, and we said, okay, let's tackle into that niche market. Let's see who's operating within that niche market, who is the best operating class. Not to say we start to explore the storage as we got hit by the banks, by the rates, right? So we start to say, okay,
when did you start exploring storage?
I think it was 2022.
Okay,
right,
and you were already in a good bit of multifamily at that point.
Yeah, so we
Okay,
probably like,
I have a question. Let me stop you before we talk about storage. So, do you raise most of your money in Russia?
no,
Okay, no, you do it locally
it's
here.
not the point.
No, oh,
We
interesting.
do it locally, yeah.
Okay,
I would say it's a Russian-speaking community.
Okay.
who
So
moved.
you hit the Russian community a lot.
yeah,
Here.
so-
Here. Yeah, I know there's a huge Russian community in Sunny Isles in Miami.
That's big time.
Yeah, big time. Because I have a friend that's Russian that lives there, and yeah, we went to
exactly
some
the spot.
restaurants. So that's an area you probably target. You know, where are other Russian communities? Probably in New York.
You know what? It's everywhere in the big cities.
Is
I would
it?
say
Okay.
Chicago, New York.
They all have big, and they
LA.
stick together, and it's like in a submarket in these cities. I'm just
I
curious.
mean, they actually do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's two groups. One who doesn't want to be part of it, and they kind of integrate into the U.S., right?
Right.
And it's probably one of me as well. So,
Right.
But then the other part, they just came in 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And again, not to speak, we experienced pretty bad times right now in Russia.
Oh, I know. Right.
And what happened is people just flooded out of the country.
Gotcha.
Like there's millions of people who left.
Who left and came to the States.
And then on the both sides, the Ukraine and Russia, right?
Right.
They just left. And it's not because of the thing, it's just because they not agree with what's happening. So, and again, but
I'd love to get your take on what's happening over there, but I don't want to shift the gears off of money right now, but I'd love to get your opinion. So how do you market to the Russian community? What do you do to raise money with Russian speakers here in the United States? Talk about some of the strategies.
I don't think we're doing anything specific to say it's a Russian community.
Okay,
I mean, for sure, we're speaking at the events and we're talking to people, right?
Right.
And we educate.
So you go to events.
Yeah.
That's one thing you do. So
Yeah.
you'll go to, I know we're talking about Hunter's event. You go to events like that. Other people that do multifamily related events. Is that? Yeah.
I would say not multifamily related.
No. Okay. What types
it's
of
just
events?
Business related.
So business events.
Business
Gotcha.
events, right?
Gotcha.
Because again, if you go to multifamily related, everybody, you basically, you are against everybody, right? 'Cause
Right.
everybody's doing the same thing.
Right.
But if you go into the business event and now you start to talk about investing, right? Investing into the real estate,
Right.
And you got all of those.
You're a big fish in a small pond versus
Perks
a
and
whole bunch
stuff.
of fish. Okay.
Yeah,
got
and
it.
then everybody's looking at you. Oh, you guys like a fund, and what are you guys doing? They start to ask questions, and we found it's the better community, right? When you go in the cross sections,
Okay.
you're not going directly into the real estate, maybe, but you go into the, let's say, dentist conference and
So a
doctor
dentist conference.
right?
Okay.
And then you go to the business club events, right? Like which is building businesses, or maybe like private equity
Entrepreneurship
events.
kind of events.
Yeah, yeah, entrepreneurship events, and then so you will find Russian-speaking community there, or maybe there's some of them are directly for Russian communities, right?
Oh,
There's a
interesting.
Force Club, for example, right in Miami, which is just a Russian-speaking entrepreneur community, and
Gotcha.
there's a bunch of different ones. Again, mostly it's a business oriented.
How much money have you raised so far, if you're willing to share that? How much money do you think you've raised since you got started? Is that a number you know off the top of your head?
It's multiple $1 million.
Well, no, I know it's multiple $1 million. I'm just curious if it's like 100 million, 50
Oh
million.
no, we're not in that box. So,
Okay.
I mean, I still consider us we just started.
You just started. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
why I don't want to.
How much money do you typically put into a deal with an operator?
Between $1 million, I would say the minimum would commit to $1 million.
$1 million. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're not huge chunks like private equity. Okay. Yeah, we bring in co-GPs in our deals. We've got a deal right now in San Antonio, screaming deal. Oh my God, it's 200 units next a mile away from a 296 unit we already own, and these 200 units, the one next door sold for $137,000 a unit. We're getting this one for $100,000 a unit.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. It's an incredible deal. So we're really excited. But we brought in a couple of co-GPs. They have to raise $1 million apiece to come in, and they have to be actively involved in the deal. In our case, okay,
Yeah.
for them to be involved, they have to be actively involved. You can't just raise the money in that scenario.
For sure.
So
this is one of the deals we actually like when you got this cushion before you actually going into the deal.
Right.
Those are the best,
Right.
right? Because again, the worst thing when you lose the principal.
what do you mean you lose the principal? Oh yeah. I
I'm
mean,
talking
if
about
the
the
deal
principal
goes
of
south,
investment,
if a
right?
deal
If the
goes
deal
south,
goes south,
yeah.
right? Something is not working, and then you come back to investors and say, "Sorry, we lost half of your money," right?
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good. I mean, at least went south. We did the best we could, right? But we didn't lose the principal because the deal was so good.
Gotcha.
Right? We didn't make as much.
Right.
We made, let's say, 5%, 10%. That's fine.
Right.
Nobody's going to tell you.
Have
that
you
much
gotten
of
in
the
any
stuff.
deals that have bridge debt?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're struggling a little bit. Yeah, I've got a couple
Got
too.
a couple
Yeah.
capital calls as well.
Oh, you
of
had
the-
to do capital calls.
because
Yeah,
of this bridge line. Yeah.
yeah. I'm dealing with some stuff with an ex-partner as well myself right now, and a couple of bridge deals. I mean, I think we'll be okay, but it's no fun. Going through the word at NMHC. The NMHC is the National Multifamily Housing Conference. It was in San Diego about a month ago. I had team members there. I couldn't go, but it was survive till 25 was the theme. It's like, oh crap.
That's a good word. So
Yeah.
yes, or West.
Yeah.
So the back to this thing. So I think it teaches you as well the things.
What
So
does teach? What is the
when
business?
when you mentioned this, we got capital
Oh,
calls,
oh,
right?
sure.
Because now you start to really understand what's the market is.
Right.
So, and then I start to be really thankful for us, right? Testing in the beginning with our own money, right? Especially those bridge lenders and financing and not certain operators, because you learn so much, so you can give your investors the best piece out of it.
Sure.
So
No,
your best experience.
I mean, bridge debt is hobbling a lot of people right now, and there's some deals that are going south. Luckily, in my Warrior group, knock on wood, I mean, I think we've only had one deal go south now out of almost 200,000 units. So I'm very, very proud of that. But there's a lot of people struggling. I mean, we were looking at a deal in San Antonio, and the reserve that the lender required, the bridge lender required a reserve to prepare for the rate cap, went from $8,000 a month to $80,000 a month. It was a small deal, but it's like 10 times what
10x.
Yeah, that's crazy. But so you do most of your equity raising just one-on-one networking then?
Not one-on-one, one too many.
So you go speak at an event.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you go up and speak to a group of Russians as often as possible,
And again, I'm saying Russians. It's really not the only target. I would say, right?
Sure.
And again, a lot of them, it's people who's already they might have a Russian last name.
Oh, gotcha.
But they don't even speak Russian.
Gotcha.
What I mean? So,
Okay.
And again, but they can really connect emotionally.
Sure.
Very fast.
Yeah,
and they understand exactly what's the background.
Well, you build rapport when you're connected like that. It's instant rapport.
Yeah.
And that's the first stage of being able to influence, is to have that rapport, right? Yeah.
Going on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And then talking to people, like sharing the experience, right? Sharing the background. So that's the best things you can do.
No, that's why you're here. That's get exposure and get out there. That's how it works.
And I think once too many, that's power. So again, you can't go through the stage one-on-one. You should go one-on-one.
Yeah.
You should talk to people, right?
Sure.
You should meet with them, especially as you go through the first stage of your family.
But you may not meet them that way. Maybe you meet them through the podcast here.
Yeah.
People reach out to you, and then you have the one-on-one conversations. I mean, we're having a lot more one-on-one conversations now with the state of the economy, and investors are a little skittish and stuff, and and it's a little more hand-holding than it has been in the past. For sure. So you're in 17 deals now, over 3,000 doors with. How many operators would you say you're with right now?
I would say like 15 of them.
That many?
15 plus,
wow.
yeah.
Okay, so you like one off with almost each person, just one really spreading it out there. And so you talked about what you look for in a team, that you want to work with. Talk about what you look for in the asset when Nikita does his due diligence.
Yeah.
How does he have time for that with 100? Does he still have those stores he sold the stores out there. Okay, got it. Okay.
He's out.
Completely, okay, got it.
That was his point of real estate investing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so that was his framework to get started in this. Got it. Okay.
He was like, I want to get out. Mm-hmm. And then I want to move to the United States.
Right.
That's my country. I feel it. And he's been here like millions of times.
Right.
But then the thing was, okay, like, how can you get the green card?
Right.
How can you?
You have to have a business.
How you can officially be the United States citizen, right, or maybe the green card holder? And then he has multiple actually citizenships. He's Israel and Russian citizen. So, and he's trying to apply through different countries, and he gets denied all over.
Really?
Denied. And we're on a Zoom call, and he's saying to me, so with all of the visas and then the green cards I'm trying to apply, I'm actually applying for lottery as well every year.
Wow.
And then he calls me one of the days. He said, I won.
Wow.
I won. I was like, what do you win? So I won lottery. I got a green card.
Wow.
I was like, this is the bullshit. That's the biggest bullshit you can tell me. So it's not possible.
It was true?
Forget about that. So stop it.
Really?
And he's like, you don't hear me. I won the thing. I was like, that's the bullshit. Stop telling me these things. When I see that, I'll trust you. So.
Right.
And then I believe you though. And then he's like, no, I'll send you paper. And he sent me the paper, and he actually won the green card.
They had a lottery for a green card.
They do,
Wow.
right? And it's a very, very small chance, slim chance you win in this.
That's
thing.
crazy. So is
won.
he in the States now?
He's in the States now. He moved in August, though, and he's in LA as well. With
So
me.
you're both in LA. Okay.
Yeah. We
Wow.
meet in the office
Fantastic.
right now. So, anyways, back to this thing. So he was looking at those assets as his personal investment number one. So how can I get personally benefit from the investment? So the one thing was we want to buy it under market, right? So we want to get the cushion.
The asset needs to be bought under market.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and then he was looking always like distressed assets, or maybe they going through tough management. They got, they got bad debt. Let's say they want to get out, right? They got some, internal problem with partnership and stuff like that. And then, one of the first ones was very interesting, actually. So in California, it was Oakland. And then it's a hotel development. I'm not development, it's a hotel, right? It's just a building, existing building. It was 1970 something. And then the two older owners, one of them 89, the other one 90.
Wow.
They want to sell.
Real old. Okay.
And they want to sell. And I think it was the middle of COVID, right? 19 or something like that.
So they were struggling.
Before that, so they were like 70% occupied, and it's Oakland. I forgot the name of the plaza. I'll remember that. And then they were struggling completely because the occupancy rate went down to 10.
Oh, sure, COVID.
20.
20?
They got killed.
Yeah.
They got
a lot of
killed on
hotels went out of
expenses.
business and so changed hands. Yeah.
And then we want to get out. It was pre-COVID-19. The price was $21 million. So once the COVID hit, and they based sell on NOI. What's the business bringing to the table? Right? Nothing, almost zero, right? The expenses more than they bring into the table, right? And they willing to sell it for 14K. I mean,
wow.
14 million.
14 million. So from
14
21
million.
to 14.
From 21 to 14, we said, okay, that's a great entry point. Let's do it, right? Let's get in. And then the problem.
Did you syndicate or just buy it yourself?
It was syndicate. So the problem was, we need to just basically to the studs. We got to remodel the
whole you had to
thing.
completely gut it. Wow.
Completely gut it, right? To remodel the thing. And then the problems start to come in. So we start to really understand what does that means to really go and deep renovation, to do really deep work on the property.
It's a great experience.
And it's a great experience because the city shows up and they say, oh, you guys next by the water. What do you need to do? Reinforce the whole basement. You got to pour the concrete. It was like, okay, how much is it going to cost? From like a 350 and went up to like 1.2 million. We're like, okay, that's a really amazing experience, right? And then the second was, so the inspection came in and they go, oh, you got to do the occupancy in the hotel, usually very small. If it's going to be studios, and we were planning to do studios, right, smaller studios, it's going to be like a 90% occupied or so. The electricity is not going to hold. The plumbing is not good.
So were you converting to multi?
Yeah.
Oh, you were converting to multi. Okay, when you said
to
studios.
multifamily.
Okay. So you had to upgrade the electrical. Did you have to? What about sprinklering and all that? Did you have
all
to
of
do,
it.
You had to do it all. Jesus.
You got to do it all. So,
Wow.
and then the construction cost was $3.5 million all in.
Wow.
And it became
how many keys?
8.5.
It became 8.5.
130.
130. So you went 3.5. You went from a capex of 3.5 to 8.5. Wow. That's a seminar.
And because of the big partner we partner with, right? I'm not going to say the name. So they were raising the debt fund next to it, and we said, okay, opportunity zone fund, not debt fund.
Gotcha.
So and then because the opportunity zone fund not deployed, what we're going to do, we're going to take the portion of the money, right, and we deploy it here. So we kind of save the price. Anyways, that was a really, really good learning process.
Sure.
So
good lesson.
We got into so much stuff there, right?
So what could you have done differently? I mean, I know the answer, but I'm just curious, what you would have done differently. A lot more due diligence up front?
We're doing even right now. I wouldn't probably touch as much of the renovation piece. It's like it's probably by now it's easy to say it's better to build ground up than just to go as deep as we.
A lot of people are doing hotel conversions, and boy, I'm sure there's a lot of seminars out there and similar, and of course California is notorious for their regulations.
They were crazy.
I mean they're probably the worst in the whole country. So you're doing that one right now. That's happening right now.
Yeah.
That hotel project. Okay, and
it's almost done.
It's almost done. And you're gonna sell it, or what are you gonna do? You're gonna sell it. Okay. what about like you said you were doing some self-storage? Talk about that a little bit.
So when the rates hit, right, by the banks,
Right.
and then we got some rate cap compressions and stuff. So
Right.
and it was pretty tough to find something. I mean, there were still different deals out there, but we're like, okay, let's look at the value. And again, coming from the business background, what's the valuation of the piece, right? So what's the valuation of multifamily right now as we speak, and what's the self-storage? And we look up at the data, right? And the self-storage did not go down on valuation. It was exactly the same. And we're like, okay, we want to be in the business which is more resilient, right, and resistant.
More
to
resilient.
Yeah. So and then we said, okay, where we can shift, and we shifted over to storage.
Okay.
So we did the research first. So we'll look at the states.
Same strategy. Same 10 and 10.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So and then we look at the pieces. We say, okay, number one, it's not as consolidated as multifamily. There's a less bigger players.
Right.
And
Right.
so what does that mean? That means with the less capital, you could get better returns. So and then that was the first piece, right? The second piece was, okay, if we find a really good operator who owns again 10 of those, right, and they've been in the business for the last 10 years, what are the chances of us losing the money, right? Almost zero, right? And the storage is on the upswing.
Well, storage is so resilient anyway. It's not like multifamily and you don't have classes of tenants and different things like that. So
And the second idea was if everybody's speaking through, okay, we're on the brink of the crisis and it's financial, blah, blah, blah. So, and again, it's might come, might not. Nobody knows. But you want to position yourself. You want to position your capital right on a spot where it's going to benefit. And we said, okay, if people are going to be leaving multifamily, right, or moving from the houses, I'm talking about more changing, right, and switching classes. Let's say if you leave an A, right, you don't have an income anymore, you probably move down to B or maybe C. So you got to store the stuff.
you got to store stuff.
You got to go through the
go to a
storage.
smaller place. If there's an economic downturn, which I believe we're headed into, people may downsize and they need a place to put their stuff. That they should just throw it away because they'll probably never use it again. But that's the way it works. I've got 6 buildings here, and I'm out of room with all the crap that I have, because I have so much stuff.
Yeah.
But so I'd like to get your opinion on this because I know in multifamily, it's pretty easy to force appreciation based on your efforts. I mean, you can do little things that can be very, very significant in improving your net operating income and, of course, exponentially improving your value. In self-storage, do you feel like there's as much of that opportunity as there is in multi?
Not as much.
Okay.
That's a good point. So,
Right.
but we were looking at portfolio
A portfolio of
of multiple buildings in one.
Okay,
So we said
okay.
we're going to get into the portfolio.
Got it,
Not
okay.
into the one thing. So,
just not instead of one facility, multiple
Yeah.
facilities.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the first one we got in, it was like 7 different buildings in one. So
Okay.
just as one purchase, right?
Okay.
And we said, so what are the chances it's going to be sold as portfolio with a higher multiple? So it's like a bunch of.
Oh, so you looked at it like for resale potential because it was more facilities.
Yeah.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
That was one. Mm-hmm. That was one. The second one was I would say the second opportunity to force appreciation, right? It was the place where there's no RV storage, and then what we did, we basically added. It was 70 units, I think, and we added another 110 units.
Oh wow.
And then half of them was like RV storage, like a bigger spaces.
Gotcha.
And then I think that was a very, very interesting place. So because, let's say it was smaller units, right, with a smaller frame, right? You can't back out with a bigger car, right? But then once you build something bigger and you got bigger space, larger space, there's multiple use of it, right? So number one, you can store RV car, right, indoor. Number two,
You can store your RVs inside?
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's big enough to do that. And
Wow.
then when we add it, right, the people are like, oh wow, there's a huge demand to this thing.
Okay.
Because people, when the COVID hit, right, people bought RVs.
Oh, I know. They were out there running around by themselves in
They were-
RVs, right?
They were going crazy because
Right.
we want to be outside,
Right.
right? So that told us, so we need to be in front of it, right? And we're going to put like a storage so people can see, they can store the RVs, right?
And this is
Because they're not gonna
covered storage for RVs?
Yes, it was.
And that's unusual too. Typically they're stored outside, so that's really good
That's
too.
what I'm saying. So
Right.
because people will pay more money
And where
to
was
be
this?
indoor.
Where
right?
was this?
I think it was in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, and then again,
RV heaven here in Florida.
yeah, businesses will use that storage to store inventory inside.
Ah, so almost like warehousing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's like a small niche of the warehouse.
Yeah. Got
So
it.
the business will come, back out the truck, right, and store whatever the inventory. And you know, you probably know how many businesses, let's say $10 to $15 million, right? And they need to get to store somewhere.
They need
right?
extra storage. Sure.
If you go to extra storage or like public storage, right, there's smaller units.
Right.
You can't back out the car.
And
turn.
they were able to back trucks in and
Yeah.
drop things off. Okay. Was this facility previously something else that got converted, or was it built that way? Was it built for this use, or was it previously something else that got converted?
Half of that was built that way, was a smaller unit.
Okay.
And then the other half was just adding up.
Okay.
So it's not converted, just building up.
Okay, got it. Okay, because you know I know people are converting, you know, big box retailers to storage, and I was just thinking maybe that's what it was, or something like that, where you got a Kmart or something like that went out of business and you convert it to storage.
So the last deal we did actually, and from storage, I just want to bring up one more asset class. So from storage, so we said, okay, what else could be the opportunity? Because
Right.
we don't want to spread too thin, right? We
Right.
want to get just the three of those things. And then the last one was a land entitlement deal.
Oh.
So we said, okay, what can we do just not to take any, like not to do anything operational? So it's going to be more of a paper play.
Okay.
Right. And then we found a really good partner, and it's in California as well,
Okay.
because there's shortage of houses.
Oh, sure.
We said how we can play that thing.
Okay.
So that means if you go a little bit away from the city and people wants to retire, right, an average price house in LA, I don't know, 1.5 million maybe,
Right,
or
right.
maybe a little bit more than that. So, but then if you go a little bit, I would say it's 1 hour, 15 minutes from downtown, right? You go to Lake Elsinore. That
Okay.
was the city. So you can buy a house at high 500s, like 590, 650 or so.
Yeah.
And then you can sell your house in LA, move out there. Every major retailer, right there, it's all established.
Nice
Beautiful
suburban area.
infrastructure, nice suburban area. So, and then we found a really good land entitlement company who was doing this last 40 years.
Wow.
They're doing the one thing. They go out to the county, they go out to the city, and they entitle that land and sell it to the big developer. That was the
Nice.
last asset class we explored, and we really, really liked
Did you
that.
get into it?
Yeah.
You got it. So you got into a piece of property. Very nice. Wow. So when you do your fund, is it asset specific for the returns, or is it the fund is completely diversified from all the different asset classes, and it's the returns cumulatively with all the assets? What is it? Is it siloed or is it cumulative? I mean,
No,
we're
it's just
combined.
asset specific.
Asset specific.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
same fund we have. We have an opportunity fund. It's the same way. Do people put money in your fund in advance of you placing it, or just when you have an asset specific to put it in?
Just when we got asset specific, we just
Okay.
reach out to people.
Gotcha.
Saying, so we
Gotcha.
got a call, right? And then you guys put
Gotcha.
the soft commit. Do you
Right, you do.
willing to just transfer the funds?
Gotcha. Just as an aside, the fund we set up, we actually pay a return on, and so they get around 4.5%, 5% return, and the money is spread between 80 banks, and it never goes over 250 grand. So it's covered by
wow.
the FDIC as well. So you may want. I can talk to you about that after we stop recording, but it's really kind of cool because people can put their money in advance. They're getting a nice return, and so you can build up the reserves so that you can maybe pay cash for something or move very quickly on something, rather than having
That's
a
interesting.
Yeah. So we're doing that, but
So you wait for deployment of the capital, right? And then meanwhile, it's in the bank.
earning. The money's there, earning interest. They're getting the interest on their money.
Do you distribute to the
Yeah.
Month,
This is
quarter.
brand new for us. We haven't done it yet. I'm not even sure if we're just this one asset we're buying in San Antonio. We're using that fund, but the money is going in.
Gotcha.
Anybody put their money and gets a return on their money.
Incredible.
Like within a week of putting it in, I think, or maybe it's 2 weeks. We have to get it all worked out. Logistically with the portal that we use. So I can't remember. It might be 2 weeks before they actually start earning the return, but then they start earning that return in advance of the closing of this asset.
Wow.
And they can earmark what asset they want to put the money in and so on and so forth. So it's kind of cool.
That's the best way.
Yeah, I'll
before it turns around, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you mentioned you did a little breath work before we started recording, and you said, I'm going to do the Tony stuff. And I'm like, Tony Robbins? I'm like, of course, I spent 20 years with Tony Robbins. And so we talked about that a little bit. Talk a little bit about mindset, because obviously you're into it like I am. So talk about mindset.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. That's a great question. So I think there's if I put it on the scale, I think this was the most important thing for me. Because again, I feel like there's half of the life I was in the victim mode, right? So everybody is doing something, right? And everybody is getting better because of this and that, right? But it was not me.
Right.
So and then once it start turn, right, there's a lot of mental work. And I think huge book was the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I really love that book, and then I can listen to that book every single day.
Listen,
just small pieces.
Let me say this to you, okay? And I'm not exaggerating. Brooke, would you say that I've given away 4,000 copies of Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, 4,000 copies.
4,000 copies.
Yes, 4,000.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's how much I like that book, okay? That's a book you should read several times a year. Okay, that book is the precursor to all self-actualization and self-improvement. It all started with Napoleon Hill. So, yeah, love it. Yeah, no, that's a great book. And so, are you still doing anything you said you listen to my podcast. Thank you. I do little clips there that are motivational, but is there anything else you do to stay juiced and motivated?
Yes. I think it works like that. So I do have my routine, which is Miracle Morning, if you remember that guy.
Yeah, no, of course. I had Hal on the show twice now, and he's got his new book out, Hal Elrod. That's a fantastic book. Yeah.
Oh, right. I'll read it as well. So, and then I think the story of him going through the tough times and he put in that routine, right? And it was super powerful for me because I started to follow that. Yeah. So I wake up early, then I need to, right? And then I start to do meditation and then scribing and reading all that exercise. And then every time when I feel like I'm not in my how do you say that, zone of excellence, right? Not in my zone, I start to go back to that routine. I feel like, I skipped this, or I skip exercise, or I skip the meditation. So, and you wake up and you're like, you know what? I don't feel as good, right? Let's go back to that routine. Let's be more disciplined.
That's it. You fall off the wagon, you got to get back on the wagon.
Got to go back,
Well, Igor, this has been a real treat to have you out here. I appreciate you coming all this way, and I know you've added a ton of value, and the name of your fund is Avista Fund, and I appreciate you coming in, and you've done a lot in a very short amount of time, so very impressive, my friend.
Thank you, Rod, and then it's my honor. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.